What's up guys, it's ENDYMION, and today it isn't a news video or a theory video. No, today I want to address the inevitable L-core in the room and talk about something that will inevitably be brought up at some point about the Mass Effect Amazon live-action show. And that is the possibility of the series being infested with wokeness. Listen, before I start ranting, I just want to say that this video is not meant to offend or target anyone. But as a consumer of entertainment, I have this undeniable bad feeling that the direction entertainment has been going in these days has not been for the better at all. Let me explain, and please watch till the end before you decide to blast me in the comments. Thank you. I could point to a countless group of examples of media that has been either awful or disappointing or box office disasters in the last 5 years or so by simply identifying the one connective thread throughout it all. They're all woke. But what does woke even mean these days? By definition, woke means alert to injustice in society, especially racism. Okay, now that we all know what woke really means, let's talk about it in terms of Mass Effect. Honestly, when I look at Mass Effect as a whole, it has been extremely woke in many ways long before most other franchises chose to. Mass Effect has always had representation with men and women in various roles of power across many of its multifaceted factions, races, and ideologies. But see, the difference between how Mass Effect has approached its wokeness or representation is that it never felt like it was shoehorned in. I think the huge problem with people's receptiveness to woke ideas in media is not necessarily the ideas themselves, like women or people of color being in charge, which again, by the way, Mass Effect did that and everybody loved it and praised it almost unanimously, by the way, but it's because of how it was told and presented. If you don't want to alienate your consumer or fan base, you must follow one simple rule that is shockingly not implemented more across all forms of media these days. And it's a simple one. Stop talking down to your audience. What do I mean by that? Well, whenever I think of a woke-infested piece of media like Ghostbusters 2016, or say the sort of new Marvel movie The Eternals, the problem with those movies isn't necessarily that there's people of various skin tones or genders in the movie. Not at all. The reason why people resist and dislike these properties, for example, is because these movies act like they have the moral high ground on the everyday consumer. And instead of treating them like equals, the creatives in charge decide to talk down to their audience like they're children who are incapable of understanding how progressive and morally superior they are, which, by the way, they're not superior to you at all. It honestly comes off as pretentious and largely alienating when you watch something or play something and there's just something not right about what's being said or presented in front of you. One game I want to talk about here is Far Cry 6. It's an alright game. I platinumed it. I sunk like 70 hours into it, even though at its core, Far Cry 6 was infested with blatant wokeness that did nothing to service its story or characters, but instead it felt more like a checklist of things Ubisoft wanted to do, which is, ironically, a lot of like how Far Cry 6 felt like to play, which is a giant checklist that never ends basically. Every man in Far Cry 6 is either a villain, a bumbling weak idiot, or a weak individual that betrays someone else. And every single strong or leader-like character in Far Cry 6 is a very masculine-like badass woman. There is one bad guy woman, I guess, but every other one is male. So not only does it feel forced, but there's no subtlety to any of it whatsoever. Whereas when I play Mass Effect, Captain Anderson is clearly a black man, voiced by a black actor, and yet not once in the entirety of the trilogy does Anderson blame his shortcomings when it came to failing his Spectre exam or his military career on his skin color or the patriarchy. He never even really mentions that he's a black man. He's simply a human character that's written well with flaws, and he just so happens to have black skin. That's why people love him. Yes, he's a great form of representation, but Anderson excels because he's not blaming the world for his failures or asking for others to elevate him simply because of his identity. And most importantly, as I said before, he has real, relatable flaws, which a lot of these woke-infested franchises, games, movies, whatever, they don't do that with their characters. Going back to Far Cry 6, every woman in that game is a strong, badass lunatic, with their only flaws really being that they trusted a man once or something. They're constantly portrayed as ultimate and always having the moral high ground, mostly. Again, it isn't believable or interesting because they don't really have any flaws that you can relate to. But say when I look at Garrus, for example, I don't see him and go, oh, he's a straight Turian male. BioWare was smart enough to say, okay, yes, Garrus is male and he's straight. And that's his character, and that's fine. But he's also regretful. He has a huge problem with following and respecting the chain of command, and he usually bites off way more than he can deal with. If Garrus was written today, let's be honest, first off, he probably wouldn't be male. Secondly, he definitely wouldn't be a police officer. And thirdly, he would be perfect and be morally superior to everything around him. But thankfully, he isn't. Garrus basically loses his standing in C-Sec by following Shepard, and even gets his entire crew killed in Mass Effect 2, decides to make a final stand in a choke point where he can pick off rival gangs, and ultimately he almost gets his face blown off, and he makes a ton of mistakes. Garrus isn't loved just because he's a badass. No, he's loved because he's relatable. And I don't know how much more clear I need to say that here. Tali is another great example of how to make a female character that doesn't feel shoehorned in or feel like there's some ultimate level messiah that can do no wrong. She's shunned by her people, she loses her father, and she's appalled by the revelations of her father's actions, and she's extremely vulnerable, not only in her emotional state, but in her literal body being so weak to germs and viruses that she has to encase herself in a protective layer of armor and cover herself to keep herself safe. It's only when Shepard and the crew talk to her, learn her culture, and understand Tali beyond her ghostly visage that you realize there's a brilliant engineer underneath all that complex layering of environmental measures. Tali isn't amazing because she's smart. She's amazing because she's so vulnerable and so cautious, but chooses to push headfirst into uncertain danger to protect her people and her friends. That's a great character. If Tali was written today, she would be ultimate. She would be Rey from Star Wars on horse steroids. Flaws are what make a character interesting, more so than their strengths. The flaws are what make characters relatable to so many people. It's why people love Spider-Man. He's a kid, he's not rich, he has bills, and he doesn't always win. That makes him relatable. And people love him because no matter how bleak the world gets, Spider-Man pushes himself. Because he knows if he doesn't protect those who can't protect themselves, evil wins, and he owes it to Uncle Ben as his dying wish. So with Mass Effect being live action, I don't want to see huge, sweeping changes to the narrative or characters. I don't want a repeat of Cowboy Bebop or whatever else woke show is out there where the people in charge actively shun, talk down, and attack the fan base by saying they don't know what they're talking about because they're just fans. Please, BioWare, Amazon, whoever is watching this, do not alienate or shun your fans or talk down to them like they're children. Remember that series like Mass Effect exist and continue to exist because of the support and passion of its diverse and vast community of fans across the world. We do not want Commander Shepard to be a raging feminist talking down to their crew like they're idiots. We don't want characters like Admiral Hackett to be gender swapped simply because he's a white male. If you want Mass Effect to exist and perform well and become loved and cherished by its fans, both new and old, for the love of God, do not go down the woke path. Do not spend millions on advertisements, suits and sets, special effects, and all of that only to turn around and point your middle finger at the fans who support you and immediately shoot the entire project into utter, irreversible oblivion. Cater to the majority of the fan base. Don't try to entertain game journalists or the small section of the community for virtual high fives while the rest of the community erupts in negativity. Honestly, like, the majority of this video should just sound like common sense to most people. But unfortunately, common sense is extremely rare these days, and it's worrisome and super annoying. Do not make Mass Effect into the new blunder like Cowboy Bebop, Death Note, or whatever other adaptation these woke-driven companies are doing next. Avengers Endgame showed mostly what happens when you cater to the majority. Don't alienate your fan base and celebrate all the hard work and dedication that it took to get there. The Eternals, on the other hand, shows what happens when you care more about checklists and what people identify as instead of just making a solid movie with good characters and being respectable to the source material. Please, no, actually, I implore you, do not screw up Mass Effect's live action series. Do not squander the potential of this monumental project to push ideologies onto a consumer base that has been resisting and ignoring these things for years now. Just make Mass Effect as it is, which is an amazing, diverse story that cares about its characters and their flaws more than what's between their pants, and I promise you, the series will explode and be the next Star Wars or Star Trek. Do not screw up Mass Effect. Oh, God, this was a rant. Thank you if you got this far without crucifying me. Hopefully at this point, you can see that I don't mean anything I'm saying here as malicious or negative. I truthfully care about Mass Effect as a property on such a fundamental level that the mere idea of it being corrupted or ruined by the woke propaganda that has failed numerous times in the past, it's just a nightmare scenario, to be honest. So thanks for watching, guys. Let me know if I'm off or not, and if I should do more videos like this one. And if you love Mass Effect, well, I got a stupid amount of content on the channel, so please like and subscribe to see more of it. I'm ENDYMION. Thank you to my patrons Fade, Pupil X, and Video Gamer 75 for the support. My Patreon is in the description box below. And now I'm gonna go play Skyrim. Cause to be honest, I'm kind of sick of the wokeness of today. And Skyrim is kind of void of that stuff, so it's nice to just play something and not have people talking down on me when I'm just trying to enjoy myself. Alright, I'm done for now. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.